Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's your favorite fire captain here, Captain Swain. Somebody said you guys were wanting me to read a book to you, so today we're going to be reading Big Frank's Fire Truck, all right? All right, so Big Frank's Fire Truck. Funny story, this book actually used to belong to Luke Coleman, who is our administration assistant's son. So you guys are getting to read Luke's book today. All right, it's 9 o'clock on Monday morning. Big Frank is just getting to work. Big Frank is a firefighter. He works 24-hour shift. That means he will be on duty all day and night. You guys can see there, Frank's headed into the fire station. This is the firehouse. This is where Big Frank lives, sleeps, and eats while he is at work. Big Frank checks in and goes over his schedule. At 11 o'clock, he will make a fire inspection at the supermarket. At 2 o'clock, he will visit the elementary school to talk about fire safety. Big Frank has to be prepared for all kinds of emergencies too. Who knows what will happen during this shift? And here we just have all the different things you may see Frank doing during the day. And hey, there's a fire pole just like I got right behind me. All right, the fire chief asked Big Frank to fuel up the fire trucks. So Big Frank heads for the garage. Big Frank's company has 3 fire trucks. The ladder is used for aerial rescues. The brush truck has 4-wheel drive and can go where there are no roads. Big Frank drives the pumper. The pumper holds water, 1,000 gallons. And you guys can see the ladder, the brush truck, and the pumper there, just like we got out in the bay here at the Searcy Fire Department. After he takes care of the engines, Big Frank checks his gear. He wears a helmet to protect his head, a fireproof coat and pants to protect his body, and sturdy boots to protect his feet. He has a wooden wedge for propping open doors and a SCBA pack and mask in the case the fires are very smoky. Big Frank hangs his equipment next to the pumper engine. Now he is ready for anything. You guys can see he's got all his equipment there. Big Frank sits down with his partner Mike for a cup of coffee. Just then the fire bell rings, and at the same time the lights in front of the station start flashing and the computer starts printing. It says that there's an accident at the intersection of Main Street and Laurel Road and a car is on fire. Mike, Janet, and Gary jump into the pumper with Big Frank. Big Frank turns on the lights and sirens and heads to the station. Woo woo! The fire truck roars down Main Street with the siren going full blast. Cars pull over when they hear the noise, and a policeman waves the big engine right through the red light. The firefighters arrive at the scene and the accident in less than 4 minutes. The first thing Big Frank does is check to see if anyone is hurt. He is glad he had his paramedic training. One lady has a bad cut on her head, so Big Frank bandages the cut and Mike radios for an ambulance. Meanwhile, Gary and Janet spray the burning car with a special foam made for gasoline fires. The flames go out and the tow truck comes to haul the wrecked car away. You guys can see there, he's out in the street. They've got a fire hose and Frank's checking on the lady. Big Frank returns to the station with the others and fills out his report. He looks at his watch. It's nearly 11 o'clock. He drives over to the quick shop to make his inspection. Big Frank inspects the store's sprinkler system to make sure it is working properly. He checks the emergency doors to see if they will open in case of a fire. He also runs a test of the alarm system. The supermarket has a smoke alarm that rings in the fire station. Everything looks okay. Back at the firehouse, Big Frank eats lunch with the other firefighters. Then he takes a short nap in his bunk. Sometimes we have to take naps after our meals. At 2 o'clock, Big Frank and Mike drive the pumper engine over to Niceview Elementary School. Big Frank and Mike talk to the 2nd grade class about fire safety. Mike tells them smoke detectors are very important. He shows them how to check their smoke detectors at home. Big Frank teaches the class what to do in case of a house fire. He tells them to stay low so they won't breathe too much smoke. Then he shows them how to stop, drop, and roll. Have you guys ever heard of stop, drop, and roll? On the way back to the station, a call comes in over the radio. It says there's a brush fire at Dairy Hill. So Big Frank turns the pumper around and heads for Dairy Hill. He and Mike will meet the rest of the company there. Big Frank is worried. There hasn't been any rain for a long time, and the wind is blowing. This could be a bad fire. Big Frank and Mike reach the fire a little after 4 o'clock. They go to work. They spray water around the edges of the blaze to keep it from spreading. The wind blows and sparks fly through the air. When the rest of the company arrives, the fire chief tells Janet and Gary to hose down the roofs on the nearby houses. That will help them from catching on fire. You guys can see they got the hoses out. They've got quite a big fire going. At nightfall, the wind picks up. Suddenly, the fire goes out of control and races towards the forest. This fire is too big for one company to handle. Big Frank radios for help. 2 more companies are on their way. You guys can see he's radioing for help. We have radios just like that. Big Frank knows all the firefighters and other companies. He has worked with them many times. Together, they make a good team. By midnight, they have saved the nearby houses from catching fire. They have headed off the blaze to the north, south, and east. But the fire is still spreading west through the trees. Even the brush truck can't keep up. Big Frank calls for a squad of special firefighting helicopters. Soon they're whirling overhead. You guys can see some helicopters. We wish we had helicopters here, some firefighter helicopters. The firefighters battle the blaze from the ground. The helicopter dropped chemicals from the air. Finally, after 14 hours, the fires begin to die out. The worst is over. Big Frank is tired. No wonder it's nearly 6 o'clock in the morning. As soon as the next shift of firefighters arrives, Big Frank and his company head back to the firehouse. You guys see that? Back at the fire station, Big Frank helps wash down the trucks. They have a lot of soot on them from the fire. Big Frank is dirty too. He has ashes all over him, even in his hair, so he jumps in the shower and he puts on clean clothes and eats big breakfast. It's 9 o'clock on Tuesday morning. Big Frank's shift is over. Big Frank waves goodbye to the other firefighters. He can't wait to go home. He can't wait to hug Amber and little Frank. Big Frank will have 2 days off to spend with his family, then he'll go on another shift, fighting fires and helping everyone's family stay safe and sound. The end. Thank you guys for joining us.